Welcome back, everybody. Legit Vocals here. Great to be back. Today we're going to be doing a tier list, going over stuff for UA Nationals and UA Last Chance qualifiers that are going to be happening next week. This week, going forward, every day going forward, I'm going to try and drop a list of one of these decks that we're going to be talking about up ahead, just so everybody can get an idea of like where I'm at with stuff and what do I think is really good in the meta and what do I think really has a chance. I'm really open to hearing the feedback from all of you guys today, so if you guys have anything about the tier list that you may have liked or may have disliked or maybe disagreed or maybe want my reasoning for why I put stuff there, we're all for it. This tier list is going to be different than what normal tier lists are. Let's say tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, so on and so forth. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. We have like a tier list which is like decks that probably shouldn't be played in this event, and then we have tier lists from like pilot dependent all the way to top 64, top 32, top 16, top 8. Decks that will statistically win. But overall, let's get over to the decks and let's start at the bottom and start with the decks you probably shouldn't play in LCQ/Nationals. Alright, as you can see here, most of these decks, they're in no way ordered. It's just color coded. Well, these ones aren't color coded, but above will be color coded. I'll briefly just say stuff about it. Astronaut, better resting decks. Bambi's not really that good. Yawatch, not that good. Old Man Yama, better green deck to play. Slots, there's better high rolly decks if you really wanted to play that. Bomber, high rolly deck. So on and so forth. Just the only deck that's probably down here a little bit is Nanami that probably could be up here. And pilot dependent, definitely a deck. And Blue Kenshin can also be up here. And pilot dependent is a big swinging deck. This is pure Kenpachi. I don't think pure Kenpachi is that good. All of the blue Demon Slayers, I just think those are fun decks, not serious decks. So that is why everything's down here. Levi, Historia, kind of the same thing. They need a little too much to try and be up here compared to these other decks. Alright, now we'll move up. Alright, so we have pilot-dependent decks, and from this point on, I will kind of talk about each deck and why I think it's where it is, where it's at. And from this point on, they are color-coded. They are not in position place, so don't think like this is the best pilot-dependent deck. They are just color-coded. First, we have Red Ring Goku. Has multiple removals and also has a good way of getting impact and other keywords that is just good for the deck. Anti-Snipe is also very strong, and one of like our decks above is a Snipe deck. We have multiple Snipe decks above us. And the two decks to its right are also Snipe decks. Kurapika and Green Yu is just very, very good Snipe decks. They're a good high rolly kind of deck where if you're seeing it that day, you're just always going to have 5Ks of Snipe. You're going to be taking your opponent's most important card off the board and moving forward. Now, Green Kaiju and Lancelot, kind of the same, but not the same. They're not sniping, but they are putting big bodies that are going to threaten damage to and kind of lock your opponent out of certain actions. I think those four green decks are just kind of always going to be there. You're always going to have access to Snipe, and you're always going to have access to like damage to or just a big body. Green Saitama. Now, as much as I love this deck, I think we're in a weird meta where your opponent can flood the board a little too much, so it's not really there. But I think there is lines to play this. I just have to tweak the deck and work on it. But it is not the deck I plan on playing for LCQ or Nationals. So it's sad to see him fall down a bit, but still is a good deck if you know your matchups and if you put your time into this game. Green Meliona. It's kind of like a bad spear, which we'll get to. It's a deck that can kind of flood the board, stand bodies active, show you damage to impact 1, and kind of put that pressure on your opponents. So I can see it being there. Yellow Switch Siblings, they did just get support in Demon Slayer Volume 2. It is a deck where if you're seeing the right pieces in the right sequence, you're going to be able to put a lot of pressure on your opponent and there's not much they can do about it. Yellow Sister is a toolboxy deck that you can kind of build for any of these matchups above here, so I think a good pilot who puts time into the lines will do very well. Same with Yellow Saitama. You have to know when you can go for it, bless me, and when you can't. Morning allergies. Then we have Yellow Modernia. Yellow Modernia is what a lot of people were playing straight on a Nikkei, which I think there's a better yellow deck, which we'll get up to above. But being able to recur your events, which just literally draw you cards, replace itself, and let you do more stuff with. It's kind of like a bad Mustang, but it does have good supporting cards. So somebody who puts a lot of time into the deck, I can see them having favorable matchups into some of these decks, but not all of them. Purple Byakuya as we saw from Gutless and other players that were playing this deck, that it can kind of wipe the board. It just falls to 5k bodies or higher, and there's a lot of decks that are going to be playing 5k bodies and filling up the board. So if you can't nuke the board every single turn, you're not really going to be able to do it. Purple Gawain, there's always somebody who always brings it. It's still a deck that's kind of like a bad version of Willy, but having unblockable, removing bodies, force block impacts, still a deck that I could see somebody, maybe one or two playing. Purple Muzan, everybody's kind of like trying to test it again because Volume 2 did come out, and Muzan is a deck that, like, when it gets online, it is online. It is a 5k damage to impact 2, so damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of deck. Purple Dark Triad is seeing some success over in JP. There was an event where a player did very well with it, and I know Anto hypes this deck up a lot, where if it just sees it, it's probably going to deck out, and it's kind of like the green Saitama, where if you don't watch your resources and actually manage your hand properly, you'll run out of stuff to like kind of slow them down, and overall you can't fall for that. Purple Tin Swords, if you can always see the Seta raid, I think this deck is very good. Like, you're always going to show multiple impact, you're going to have multiple removal, you're going to have card draw. Overall, I think this is a very good deck, but you need to like be seen at that day. Purple Jin, this is a shout out to Pro DM Joey. He was playing this deck against Gutless and Ming, and I think it has some potential. You just need to play your lines right and like learn the matchups that you're going to be playing it into, and I think this deck has potential in our meta currently, but it's going to take some time to see where it is there. Not having a special that doesn't kill is also a little rough, but we'll have to see. Blue Lifa, as you guys have known me from the channel before, we used to play a kind of like swarm the board Lifa, but now we can play board control Lifa with the new color trigger that lets us bounce a 4k and more card draw with the new 2-drop Yui. So this is a deck where I think if you're piloting it right and piloting it into some of these decks, you have a lot of good 4-drop raids that if you keep putting back in their hands, then they lose the baby, and you're kind of hitting 2 AP worth of bodies for 1 AP. It just really depends how you have it. Blue Aoshi, this is the thing that Bulgy took to the Canada regional and did very well with it. Having 8 swings is nothing to fret at, because when you're at 4 life, 4 blockers, well, 8 swings, statistically, you can just die there if you don't have actives or specials or anything to save you. So, that is a big thing to look at. So it is a deck that can put a lot of pressure. Blue Bleach, kind of the same thing. You have protection, you have double attacks, you have, depending on which variant you're running, if you're running like the pure variant, like some people, you just have a lot more protection, a lot more draw, a lot more cycle. If you're playing the Rukia, you have the Rukias to kind of slow down your opponent. It's a deck I can see doing well. Blue Switch Kirito, so another thing, they just got their Volume 2, just like Demon Slayer. So they have more cards, they have more names, so consistently they should be seeing more pieces going from this far out. Alright, and next I want to talk about top 64 and top 16. So these, let me see if, okay, there we go. So top 64, like, these are the decks going forward, these decks above. I'm not saying the decks in Pilot won't get you your invites into LCQ, but they have to work a little bit harder than all the decks. All the decks in top 64 and up, these are decks I can easily see if you bring it and you know your deck very well and you know your matchups, you will easily get your invite in from the LCQ, and then at Nats I can see you going in these placements of where I have them put. We'll first start off with Red Asta and Red Noel. This is like an Asta Noel package for the Noel card is what I'm playing, and this is just pure Asta. I think this deck has some of the best removal. Sure, like your 5Ks is only your special, but then you have a body that removes 4K, so that gives you 8 removals in total. You have a negate effect, so you can kind of lock down some of these other cards that have really good effects that you just don't want to deal with the next turn. And if you're playing the Noel thing, you have force block impact. So both of these just having removal, having, and also if you're playing the Noel, you have Sea Dragons there, which is one of the best protection cards ever. So overall, I think I can see these doing very well and getting top 64 if you're playing them. Yellow Nikkei. Now this is a shout out to Ming and Gutless Mist. They are both big advocates of this yellow Nikkei. If you don't know what this deck does, it probably will beat you the first time you play against it. They'll hit you for a lot of damage, and I think the most Gutless has ever swung at me for was 2, 4, 6. He hit me. He tried to hit me for 10 damage in a turn. He had like 2 neons, 2 of these restand rappies, and he went like damage 2, swing, restand and damage 2, swing, restand and damage 2, damage 2, damage 2, and I was like, okay, calm down, buddy. Like, if you don't have the right cards and like you let them kill your board to get your board low, you could just die in one turn. Then we have yellow goddesses from SAO2. We did just get volume 2, which has the Leafa raid, which has the Asuna and the Xenon support. So having that little Xenon, which is a 1-drop, which lets you take a life, give 2k to something, and impact, gives you always a way to close out games. It also lets you turn your sniper into a 6k snipe, so if you need to. You got the Asuna, which is a draw trash, but if you have 4 or less life, it's a draw. And then you have the Leafa raid, which lets you heal. And if it is your last life and you still have a leaf on your board, you can also heal with that. So it's equivalent of having 8 finals in your deck. So just the possibility of that is very strong. Then we have every version of Purple Bleach. I think it's just, if you're playing pure Ichigo Rukia, you're playing Renji Rush, you're playing Squad Zero, some variation of this. It is just a deck that is going to be consistent. It is going to put a lot of 4Ks on board. It is going to try and kill some bodies. So I can see it doing well. Purple Dorothy, this is the other Nikkei deck that people are looking at. This is what I played for a while. It revolves around no triggers and your opponent having triggers. You do have multiple removals between special, the Dorothy raid, and then you have the Scarlet to close out games. You have Harans to draw you extra cards and also show you impact. So I can really see it doing well, especially since if you have Color Dorothy plus Eden on board, you're turning every non-trigger in your life into a draw and a get trigger, which is very strong. Purple Toto. Toto is always going to be here. Sight removal, double energy, disruption, especially with a lot of these decks wanting to get to 7 energy, 6, higher than that. All these decks that want to get big, Toto's always going to be there. Disrupt it. Blue Sukuna, with the restriction lifted, a lot of people have been playing it again. And yes, you can draw a lot of cards. Yes, you can find your fingers. But at the end of the day, it's one of those decks where you need to find your pieces. Mustang's still a good deck, kind of into Kenshin and some of these other decks, because you're like, hey, I'm going to kill you and then remove you, because then you're not sidelined. So it gets around some win sideline abilities, and it also is just a good way to draw your deck and remove bodies every turn, because if they don't remove the Roy, well, next turn you get to keep removing bodies. So having constant removal on a body is very strong. And that is going to be our top 64. Now we're going to move to top 32, and this is where some of the new decks are going to get introduced. So we have our red Avas, Ava being the newest set. So first one is Red Shinji. D3, we call this a meme. It is going to be God's Chosen. This is a deck where if you're seeing it, you're always, like, you're probably winning. It's a 7-drop 5k that when you raid it, you get to put any number of red rays with different costs from your trash underneath it. You want to get to 4 or more, because when it has 4 or more, it is protected from trigger abilities, so you can swing with the rest of your board and no triggers can hit it. And then when it swings, you can take 2 of the rays, add them to your hand, restand it. Then it's a 5k that's unprotected. And then after that 5k swing, you can add the other 2 rays again to your hand, restand it. And then it's a 10k impact 3 because you have 0 cards underneath anymore. So a triple swing on 1 raid is very strong, especially when you have the ray, the 6-drop ray that blows itself up to kill a body and reduces the next Shinji, making the Shinji a 6 cost and 1 AP less. It's just very strong. You can have removal into a triple swing. Then we have red no trigger. This is kind of like what Dorothy is, but a little bit better, because this raid allows you to spit out a body, draw 2 trash 1, and it spits out the body first and then checks how many no triggers you have. So if you have 3 no triggers and then play this and spit out a no trigger, well then now it checks you have 4 no triggers, so you get to draw 2 trash 1. And then you do have a 4-drop that on play, it kills a Asuka, restands itself, and then draws a card. So this 4k body can spit out another 4k body and draw you a card on top of the draw 2 trash 1. So for 1 AP, you're getting 2 4Ks out of it, and you're drawing 3 cards and trashing 1. That's actually very strong, and it's a high aggro deck, especially with the double damage Mari that is swing, double damage 4K, and then at the end I can discard 2 non-triggers, make it a 7K double damage. Like, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure and be going really fast with this deck, and if your opponent can't answer it, it's going to end up punishing you very badly. Yellow Mina, Yellow Kikoro. This is Kaiju 8. Yellow Mina is a good control deck because it is letting you stun out your opponent's cards, and then if they hit a yellow color trigger, you get to stun out again. Or if you have the other Mina, you can rest something and then stun it with the Mina Raid, just keeping some of your opponent's key pieces locked out of the game. Very strong. The Kikoro Reno package, just being able to flood the board with all these little guys and making them big enough to where they can swing into regular decks, is just another aggro deck, kind of like the Red Ava, where you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on your opponent and going, hey, you better have it. Purple Saito. This is a snipe deck that is very consistent in its searches and its availability to always snipe you. With the color Saito, always able to bounce the raid back if you need and become a 4K. You can always guarantee every turn you're going to snipe impact and take 1 life that you need to take away from your opponent. So your opponent has to always be ready that they might be losing a life the next second. Purple Toguro. This is a deck where I kind of put it in the, if it sees it, then it's a deck that there's not really many things you can do about it. Like having the little 4K body that sure it can't block the other little guys, but it can block big bodies is good. You have, and it can't swing unless something die, but you want the Elder Toguro to die anyways, so you can reduce your Toguros. Like, it has the card draw, it has removal, it has very big bodies. It just, I think the deck loses to itself more than it loses to other people. Like, you don't see the right double energy, you don't see the right card at the right time. Cross is a good card. It is a deck that I can see a pilot that has been playing the deck and knows the lines can do very well with it. From SAO Volume 2, we have Purple Progressive. Progressive is another deck, kind of like this yellow Nikkei deck. They have multi-swings, they have unblockable, well, not unblockable, they say your body can't block, which is kind of worse. And then they have restands, they have impact. I think this deck, if you don't know what it does, it's the same thing as like the yellow Rappy. Like, it will come by and it will just sweep the legs out from underneath you. You're going to get hit by too many damage 2s or too many impacts, and you're just like, okay, somehow I lost this game because I wasn't ready for the amount of pressure this deck could put on you. Now, my top, will it top 16? Any of these decks in top 16, I can see winning all of Nationals if they have the right matchups and the right rounds going their way. First, we have the big bad boogeyman himself, Red Kenshin. Red Kenshin just still only needing to get to 4 energy, having 2 very good raids, one being a double attacker, one being a pushback, and pushback out of life is like a special. It's back-breaking for a lot of decks, not killing things, so then it's messing with energy with some of these decks that need to get to 7 or higher. Can also be very crucial and hurtful. Alright, now we have Green Toshi. This is like the boogeyman for Gutless. This is a deck that it stuns out your board, and it's not just like, oh, I can just active trigger this back. No, it is locked out until their next turn. And then with the Kenpachis as well, you have 4K bodies that are giving you impact or damage 2, and then you can raid the Kenpachi raid, so you have kind of a sticky body to kind of deal with stuff. So you just poke in little at the start, and then you close up the game with these Toshiro raids to lock your opponent out of blocking, lock your opponent out of like their active double energies. Overall, a very strong deck. Now, probably the best snipe deck that we're going to have for Nationals and access to it is going to be Green GGO. With the Volume 2, we're getting the new 6-drop Xenon that is draw 1, spit out a body, and then activate main, give it impact or plus 1,000. It really helps you flood the board. And with the 2-drop Kirito, reducing your raids by 1 energy from your hand. Makes this 6-cost raid a 5-cost, makes a 7-cost Kirito a 6-cost. If you have multiple, it gets even more reduced. And overall, I think that card is very good for this deck. Being able to also have snipe, so your removal can kind of get around some people's protections and other stuff like that. Like if Kenshin goes, hey, I protect this with the Karu, so you have to discard a card, then Xenon can go, okay, I'll just snipe into it. I don't have to pay a card, especially since their special is also just giving snipe to a thing. And then you can go special, target one of the baby Xenons, use the new 6-drop Xenon and give it impact. So you're always getting damage through. Very strong. Then we have Yellow Ava. We call this Yellow Girls, Yellow Heroines, whatever you want to call it. Yellow Girls, the simple way to put it, it's a raidless deck. It's kind of like Yellow Hashras back in the day. You just flood the board. You play around this mechanic of get triggers where you're able to play get triggers out of your life, and some of these get triggers are backbreaking. This Asuka is on play, it can rest a body, or you can kill, if it's your turn, you can kill one of your bodies to kill one of your opponent's 5Ks or less, so that's just removal on a stick. And it also has the added effect of you can discard 2 cards, it becomes a 5K impactor. You also have the 4-drop Mari that turns all your active and draw triggers into get triggers if you like. So then you can play things you normally wouldn't play. You also have the 4-drop Ray, which if it would ever be removed from the board, you can literally just discard a card and then play out the body. The only caveat to that is if you play like Byakuya or something, or Willy, and you minus it down and the game removes it, because then you're not dying by my effects, you're dying by state-based actions. We have the other big bad boogeyman besides Kenshin, and that is going to be Purple Spear. This is a 7-drop 5K. On play, draw a card, spit out a body that costs 6 or less that isn't a raid. And in active main, you can kill one of your bodies on the front line, repeat the on play. This is a deck that kind of goes fast, and once it's online, it's just like, hey, here's a 5K that spit out a 4K, and then I'm going to tap, play another one, or I'm going to blow up this little body that was in my front line, this 15, draw a card, spit out another 4K. For 1 AP, I've played 3 4K plus bodies, and if they're the Asukas, they're also drawing cards while they're doing it. It's a deck that if you don't hold your specials for the spear raids, and then have like some strong board of your own to push back into these multiple 4Ks, you can get overwhelmed and kind of ran down. Keep in mind, this yellow Asuka did lose the 0-drop Asuka, so its filtering is a little weaker, but I still think this deck's good, that's why I still have it up here. And now, Purple Willy, this is the deck I was looking at playing. We did get hit in the 1-drop Mari department, but I think the deck is still solid. I think the only thing the 1-drop Mari really hurt with was name targets for the 5-drop raid, because now you have to always raid on the 0 or your double energy, which is kind of ruthless. But overall, I think Willy is still a good deck. It is a deck that can go, hey, I'm going to remove your whole board with Minazine, or I can show you a lot of triple attackers with this Asuka raid. This triple attack is just 4K once, 4K twice, and then 7K can't be blocked by 3K or less. And like you could save that final attack for like maybe you don't have enough cards in trash, so then you leave it on board. So now your opponent has to special this, or next turn you can go swing 4K, swing 7K. And it's just more annoying. You have a better Kenpachi raid than the Kenpachi deck itself. You have a raid that if it would ever leave the board, you could just take the top card off. So it's just, you don't have to discard like the Kenpachi, and it also minuses. We have a good starter deck 2-drop. Overall, like I think this deck is still good. It's going to be able to mass removal a board and also just swing more times than decks can handle sometimes. Because sure, you may have like 2 blockers on board and 4 life. They show you 2 of these raids, your bodies are now small, and they have 6 swings to your 2 bodies. So you have to really pray in your life there. Now a deck I'm really familiar with, it's going to be from SAO Volume 2, is going to be Purple Song. Yuna, I think because we haven't gotten the restriction and because like we have these other decks that aren't named Kenshin, if you're a Yuna player and you avoid Kenshin, I think you have a good matchup into almost all these decks. Like you have removal for 5K bodies. If you actually keep track of your deck and how you're stacking it and how you're cycling it, then you can really take advantage of people who may not be ready for what this deck is capable of doing. But if you're a Yuna player and you end up running to every red Kenshin, you will have a rough time because not being able to fill up your trash when you need to, getting double attacked multiple times, it can be really, really backbreaking. But overall, that is my tier list. I know it is a lot because I did kind of put every list that was in here. But overall, I just want you to pay attention to everything that it is in Pilot and above, because these decks down here, like, if you really want to play them, go for it. But overall, I think if you play a deck that is in Pilot or above, then I could see you doing very well at LCQ and at Nationals. But like I said before, for the rest of this week and into next week before Nationals, every day I will have a deck list coming out for one of these decks somewhere up here. So that way you guys can get a peek into my mind of like what I think a list should look like. And I will go over some play lines and some matchups for each of the decks so I can talk you through why I think it's good and why it should be up here. Overall, I'm very excited for LCQ and Nationals. We do, as of D3, since we did it last time before, I will put more of these on the screen and stuff like that. We are going to have new versions of dice. We have like a red, white, and blue one, if I can look at it. We have a new like gold and black one. So we will have a whole bunch of D3 dice like we did before. So you guys can come up, come find me, grab a whole bunch of dice. Not a whole bunch, but you can grab some dice. Represent D3. Huge shout out to the community and everybody who tuned in. D3 we won't be having... We didn't have a tournament yesterday, but we will have one final Sunday tournament before Nationals and LCQ. So a lot of people get testing in this Sunday coming up. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. Hope everybody tunes in and come enjoys the game with us. We're really trying to see who is going to come out on top at Nationals, and we want everybody to do their best in LCQ. So make sure you stop by the Discord server, discord.gg/draw3. Come play games. If you ever want to talk to me or anybody else that like you think may have a better opinion on a deck, feel free to ping us, let us know. I'm always welcome and I'm always open to talk to people and kind of work on their lists. I know I've helped some of the people in the Discord already work with their lists for decks that they are currently testing. And overall, I'm really excited to see where we go with this year. And already we have the week after LCQ and everything, we have the online event. And then in April, we have Virginia, which I know I'll be going to Virginia along with some other D3 members for the very first regional of this year's season. I'm really looking at Kagurabachi, Tokyo Ghoul, or So Lovely. And like those are decks like I want to play. So it's going to be really interesting to see where they are in the meta and what they do. But until then, guys, it's Legit Vocals signing off. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Let me know what you think about the tier list, everybody.